I think Nehed's run the best campaign by far.
Used Twitter very well, Facebook, and he's been able somehow to mobilize that demographic, the 18 to 24 crowd that just doesn't vote.
It's a clear lead for Nenshi. Same with Facebook likes. This one's really impressive. Right before the polls closed, Nenshi had more than 10,000 Facebook likes. Barb Higgins had 1,700, and Rick McIver had 4,100. So combined, they don't even come close to Nenshi's.
You were telling me off camera a little bit about, of course, Nenshi being one of your colleagues at Mount Royal University, actually asked your advice on whether or not he should run for mayor.
I told him no.
He tweeted just a few minutes ago, he's on his way down to his party and he can't decide what kind of tie he should wear.
It is a sea of purple tonight, and hopefully we've painted the town purple today.
And I also just read that Nenshi's camp has switched their TVs to ShawTV, so hi to everyone at Nenshi's camp.
Hi to everyone at Nenshi's camp.
Nenshi, I like the purple tie in the middle one. Go with that.
I think it could be a long time before we're declaring a winner. What I was hearing when I talked to people, that a lot of people, I think, changed their vote in the last few days. It's not a surprise, but he's definitely the guy out of the three of them that sort of just snuck in there.
Lots of things happen all the time, but we see that 5,000 votes now.
We just got to talk a little bit about a text that Keith Brownsy just received here from Stephen Carter. 3 little words from Nehed Nenshi's headquarters, and they were?
Well, we got it. I think those words will go down in Calgary's civic election history.
To be where he is right now, it's very surprising.
Okay,
it's quite shocking.
Yeah.
Nenshi's taken an almost insurmountable lead. Now, I've been wrong on these things before. Remember, I'm the guy that told him not to run. He goes from a business professor to a national political figure overnight.
Today, Calgary is a different place than it was yesterday.
All right, and while that was a big evening for us here at ShawTV, I'm thinking it was even more memorable for our guest today. A very warm welcome to our new mayor, Nehed Nenshi. Thanks for being here, and of course, congratulations.
Thanks, Aaron. I'm thrilled to be here, and I don't know, I got record numbers that night, you got record numbers that night, so it was a big night for all of us.
Pretty good partnership, I'm thinking.
And I did enjoy Fraser's purple shirt.
You did enjoy. You know what? He'll be so happy to hear that. Okay, now when we talk about that night, we talk about you know, the coverage, and the city was going crazy, and there was so much going on. But can you walk us through at all what that night was like for you and those close to you?
Well, sure. I mean, it was kind of a weird day because it was the first day in months that I didn't have anything to do. Because the team was trying to keep me away from the campaign headquarters because I just freaked people out. So I was kind of going from coffee shop to coffee shop, telling people to vote, and I kept phoning the campaign headquarters saying, really, is there nothing I can do?
Can I not come yet?
I could go drive people to the polls if you want, or answer phones or something.
But nothing.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
And so because we were so busy focused on the election, we actually, nobody thought to plan the election night party. And it was only a couple of days before that we went, we need a space.
Absolutely.
So we ended up actually doing 2 different events.
Okay.
So the core team was at campaign headquarters along with the election night day volunteers, the people who were on the phone, the scrutineers. They were getting the early results. And all the other supporters and all the volunteers were at a bar a couple of kilometers away. 500 people at the Amsterdam Rhino.
Yes.
And I was with them. So I didn't have any access to the advanced numbers because they were all going to the other headquarters.
My goodness.
So I was watching you on Shaw.
You were watching?
And that's how I got the numbers.
Oh, well, that's a pretty good story.
At the Rhino. Okay. So I was standing on stage at the Rhino, 500 people all around. And there was a point when I was in second place. And I looked at that and I knew what the numbers would play out like after that. So I said, oh, I'm going to win. And I probably had about...
Was it just like that? Oh, I'm going to win.
Well, it was a bit,
you know,
I realized it at that point.
Yeah.
But the people in the bar hadn't figured it out yet.
Okay.
So I had about a minute and a half lead time on them. I had figured it out. They hadn't figured it out yet. And when you popped up the next set of numbers and I was in first place, the place went insane.
Absolutely.
I've never heard a noise like that before. Wow. And people were mobbing me on the stage. It was very exciting.
Did you get a tweet saying, we got it?
I did not do that.
No, okay.
And I didn't get it either, Stephen Carter. But then later on, of course, I went to the main headquarters where all the TV cameras were and made my speech and went into that big, hot, sweaty, crowded mass. It was a pretty exciting night.
A night you're not likely soon to forget,
I don't think
sure.
so.
Now, when we talk about that night, a big topic that we talked about on set was the social media aspect of it. And your campaign, you've really changed a lot of people's views and the way a lot of people think about social media. Is that fair to say?
Well, you know, I think it's true. I think we've changed a lot of people's minds, and there's been so many articles written about how we won the election, and everyone's got a different theory.
Yes.
Very few people ask me.
Why would they do that?
Why bother? Really, there were three things going on here. The first one was that Calgary was ready. A lot of citizen groups and community groups had been doing a lot of work in the last several years to engage citizens more in municipal government. Groups like the Better Calgary campaign and Civic Camp and so many others. So Calgarians were ready to have that conversation. Then you had a candidate who can't speak in sound bites, right? It takes me 15 seconds to say my name.
I know.
And so really engaging in a deep conversation, very detailed policy with citizens who were ready. And then the third piece was using all of the techniques we had to continue that conversation. And I spent a lot of time in church basements and synagogues and temples and people's living rooms and dining rooms and backyards and community halls and parks, festivals, all summer.
Yes.
Because that's where people live. But we also realized that a bunch of people live online.
Absolutely.
And we needed to go to those people where they live as well. And that's really where the social media came from. I don't think it would work for just anybody.
No.
But I think the authenticity of the discussion that we were having based on those first two things is what put us over the top.
Okay, now when we talk about discussions and questions, you said now the work begins, and I know we've talked a little bit offline, and it's already began. You have a big meeting coming up on Monday. You're going to sit down with a new council, and it starts to talk about budgets. And where does that even begin for you?
Well, there's four things we've got to work on right away. Because this is the challenge. There were so many priorities during the campaign. We put out these 12 better ideas, and they're all important.
Right.
But we also have some time priorities. And the time priorities mean there's four things we got to work on right away. The first is that budget. We've got a $60 million deficit we've got to close. And we've started work on that already. I've got lots of paper on my desk.
I can imagine.
And we're going to make that happen. The second is the airport tunnel, because if we don't have a deal by the end of this year, the cost will go up by tenfold. The third is better public transit, including a path forward on the Southeast LRT. And the fourth is probably the most important, which is making some real visible changes to how City Hall works and how City Council works so that Calgarians can see that they're being listened to and that we're starting to make changes even now.
And that's an important thing, and asking those questions. And I know there's been a lot of speculation about the differences of opinions between you and Chief Rick Hance in regarding using those police budgets, I guess. And that will continue, I'm sure, asking those questions.
We're going to keep asking those questions to every department. I met with the chief, this week, I think. I met with the chief a few times now. And we're working together really well. They've come to the table with some very significant budget cuts to their department that don't impact frontline policing, which is what we've been asking for. So I'm very, very pleased as to where we are at. And I'm going to continue asking those same questions to every city department.
Well, and I hope you'll come in here from time to time so I can continue to ask you these questions as well.
Anytime.
Mayor Nenshi, thanks so much for being here.
Great seeing you, Erin.
You betcha. We're going to be back with more ShawTV after this.